Hello everybody, my name is Sally-Ann Spence and welcome to the Hills Quarry Products dig at Sunny Wick. Now this is an incredible dig where we have material from both the Ice Age and the Jurassic all being discovered at once. And we've got loads of different participants taking part in the dig. We've got students from various universities. We've also got various experts coming in as well. And one of those is with me now. This is Danielle Schreve. Hello Danielle.
Hello Sally-Ann.
Now you are a professor at the University of Bristol.
I am indeed, yes, Professor. I'm the Heather Corrie Chair in Environmental Change. So I'm a paleoecologist and I work particularly on Ice Age mammals.
Well, that's very handy as it turns out, because we have an awful lot of material coming out from the quarry right now. This is Wednesday, so halfway through week one. These are some beautiful pieces that we've had come out, and we're really hoping you can tell us a little bit more about these finds.
Happy to do so. It's been incredibly exciting to actually get down to the site and see it, and obviously just the proliferation of material coming up has been quite amazing, and I think because of the type of site that it is, so an old river course, and we know quite a lot about the warm stage that it was laid down in, so about 200,000 years old. And so the kinds of things that I was expecting to find are coming up, which is fantastic. So particularly animals that are indicative of quite open ground conditions. There are some trees around, stands of trees, but very much open ground conditions, large herds of animals coming through and grazing, browsing down those seedlings. And one of those big grazers is right here.
So what have we got? We're going to bring the camera in. Come and have a look at what we've got in this tray. This is amazing. What have we got here?
So these are lovely, and these have been coming up, I understand, over really sort of today and the last sort of day or so.
Yes, we actually had these on day one.
Right.
So people, if you've been watching our videos, the hashtag is TussForce, you will have seen these already, but we were waiting for someone like yourself to come along and tell us a little bit more about them.
Fantastic. So these are remains of Ice Age horse. So horses were very adaptable. They were around during sort of cool climate episodes, but also these warm interglacials, but they do like open ground conditions. And if we pick up this tooth here, so this is an upper molar, and you can see it's actually typical of a grazing animal. It's quite worn down, so this was certainly a full adult getting on to being quite an old individual. And the surface, the biting surface of the tooth, is made up of all this very carefully folded enamel. And that's what gives the tooth its strength and ability to cope with these very abrasive grasses that this animal would have been feeding on. So a typical grazer here. And then we can also see some nice bits of the leg. We've got part of the hind leg here and part of the forelimb here.
Ooh, okay.
So this one is what we would sort of commonly call a cannon bone. It's actually a third metatarsal, and the top part of it's broken, but the bottom part is very nicely preserved. It's a really robust bone. So this is the bone that forms the lower part of the hind leg, just above the bones that make the toe and into the hoof. So this is a really sort of sturdy horse. Again, they have evolutionary adaptations that are great for moving quickly. They've lost most of their other toes in their evolutionary history, so they are great for moving over these open areas. And obviously would have existed as herd animals. And this one came up today, excuse me, and this is part of the forelimb. This is lovely, so it's still a little bit damp from where it's been cleaned, and it's got that sort of darker colour. And this is part of the front limb this time, and this is what we call a radio-ulnar. So the ulnar, the main part of the bone, has broken off, and we just have the shaft, which is fused onto it there, and this bone in front is the radius. So a similar arrangement to what we see in our own forelimbs as well. So big articular surfaces here, and again a big horse. These are, they're very chunky. They're getting on to sort of what we think of as a sort of heavy horse type size.
Okay, so was that now for the horsey people amongst you? We talk in hands for horses. Do you have any idea?
Measurement wise, I can't do it in hands, but we're probably looking at about 1.60 m at the shoulder, something like that. So quite,
a good stocky size.
Yeah, absolutely.
And would these be the ones with a sort of like a risen mane, or we don't really know because we haven't got them that sort of?
That's it's a tricky question. As far as we know, because there are none that are exactly the same living today. But certainly from later cave art, that kind of sort of dun colour, the hogged mane, the dark mane, and that sort of mealy muzzle. But there's a lot of variety, and we know now from things like ancient DNA that there are various sort of different colour coats and stuff like that. So yeah, we can't say we just have the bones, not the soft parts.
Absolutely, and that's the great thing. So we know we've got horses on the site.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that is, and we talk about this being the Ice Age material, but the ice is actually gone at this stage, hasn't it?
So
nearly gone.
There's no ice here. I mean, we loosely refer to this colloquial term as the Ice Age, but of course we would describe it as the Quaternary period. In fact, we're in the Quaternary today, so we should all know that we're in the Quaternary. And the Quaternary basically is formed of two parts: the Pleistocene, which there are many ice ages, but with warm stages in between, and that started 2.6 million years ago until about 11,500 years ago when the last ice age finished, and then we're in the current interglacial, the Holocene. So we say ice age, but there's no ice here. It's a warm stage similar to the one that we're in now, but quite a cool one. So certainly not one of these episodes that we have in the past where there's evidence of elevated summer warmth. So summer temperatures we can reconstruct from sites that have got beetles in them, because they're very good at telling us about sort of climate tolerances, and we're looking at summer temperatures probably of about 16, 17 degrees.
So, and would they have seasons like we do now, the spring, or summer, autumn, winter?
Absolutely. So again, we've got various sort of plants and animals that tell us about seasonal tolerances. So again, some of those beetles, they tell us that they were sort of quite cold winters, certainly with snow on the ground. But presumably at the time when these animals are around, yeah, I mean, it could be a winter season, and maybe some of the further information that we'll get from the site, such as the mollusks or any plant remains or something, that might give us more of an insight into exactly what kind of climatic position we're in.
And I don't mean to put you on the spot, okay, because this is live, poor Danielle. But tell me, is this an adult animal?
Yes, so all of these are full adult animals. So the ends of the bones, the way that we can tell a juvenile from an adult is because in mammals, and it's the same in us, the ends of the bones when the animals are born are unfused, and then that allows the bone to grow, and then once they've got to their maximum size, you've got the fusion of the bones. So these are fully fused, so these are adults.
Brilliant. So we have adult horses, not necessarily the same horse here either, so we'll assume that we might have more than one horse coming out. So that's brilliant. Right, you have 3 other trays. Which one do you want to go to next?
Well, since we've just talked about juveniles, I'm going to bring this one over now. So let's move that one round.
Righty-ho, because this is really special, I think.
Yeah, so this is fabulous, and this is a baby mammoth tooth. So it really is rather lovely. I'm going to pick it up. It is wonderfully preserved, and particularly because it's still got the roots present on it. So I'm thinking that somewhere around there could be bits of jaw that were, encasing this tooth. And because normally if you find one of these teeth and it's been knocking around, tumbling around in a river, these are the things that break off straight away. So you can see that these mammoth teeth, just like the adults, they're formed of these plates of enamel, so these long ridges, and this is the biting surface at the top. So it's just coming into wear here. This is the front of the tooth, and this is the back. And on the biting surface, you can see that you've got all this sort of wriggly enamel that's coming to the surface, and that's again helping the animal cope with a very abrasive diet. So kind of similar to what we saw in the horse.
Yes.
A little bit different. So this is very special. This is what we call a deciduous premolar, and it's the fourth. It's the DP4 as we call it, and mammoths go through a set of 6 teeth in their lifetimes. They start off, they only ever have 4 teeth in their mouth at any one time, so left and right, top and bottom, and they start with a very, very small tooth, really tiny. Once that wears away, there's a second one feeding back from the back like a conveyor belt, and this is the 3rd one in the series. So really lovely. This was probably an animal about 5 or 6 years old when it died. There are no clues as to why it died, but obviously young animals can get into difficulties, particularly in maybe got stranded or something like that. on the edge of the riverbank. So, yep, there could be multiple reasons, but it's a beautifully preserved little tooth, really lovely.
So when we talk about mammoths, everybody thinks, and I'm sure most of you watching this will be thinking the same, woolly mammoth. Could this be a woolly mammoth? Could it be a different type of mammoth? Because there are many different types of mammoths, or species of mammoths, should we say?
There are indeed, and in fact, actually, these teeth come from an intermediate species of mammoth. So this is what we call the steppe mammoth, and it's from a very late form, which appears just around about 200,000 years ago in the UK, and it's really the sort of the sort of intermediate form, if you like. So the woolly mammoths tend to come later, and a characteristic of the last ice age in particular.
That's fantastic. Well, that is brilliant. I'm very, very pleased to have had that. We have met that when it came out from the dig site, when it was still quite covered in mud and everything else. So it's so nice to see it cleaned up as well, and learn so much about it. Okay.
Excellent.
Which tray next?
We're going to go on to that tray next, because this is another piece of mammoth bone.
Right.
And I guess this is quite typical of a lot of pieces of bone that have been broken up and tumbled along in the river. So it's quite nice to see that as a contrast to the tooth, which is so beautifully preserved. So you see how thick walled this is, and it's got the typical sort of spongy bone, the cancellous bone inside. So this is just a piece of, when we say elephant bone, that could include other species of elephant, but almost certainly from the mammoths that we have preserved in greater numbers at the quarry. So a big old piece of bone, and you can see that the edges are really quite rounded off. So this is always a sign that it's been, I guess, affected by the river, that it's been washed down the river, it's been tumbled around a little bit. All the sort of, the delicate features are kind of smoothed off. So a big chunky piece of bone. I can't say what part of the body it comes from, but certainly an adult mammoth, and again, a nice contrast to the little juvenile that we've got. But even though this might not seem hugely informative, it's really important to collect all of these pieces, because that's the way that we can understand much more about how the site was laid down, and how those bones came to be in the landscape.
I mean, we're seeing a lot of prey item fauna here. Do you think we're likely to see predator?
Predators will always be in lower numbers in the landscape, so they're always rarer, but certainly around this time there are wolves, there are brown bears, there are lions, and they're big lions as well, about a third larger than the modern African lion.
So big enough to pull something like this down?
Yes, but rare. They'd probably go after a juvenile if they did at all.
Yeah.
Or after a sick or injured animal.
Because it's not worth risking yourself.
Certainly not. No,
something
absolutely not. And again, there were carcasses around in the landscape as well. So we see it in a very different kind of way now, with the bones and the stones out on the landscape. But you've got to imagine, obviously, with a huge landscape inhabited by large herds of animals, and yes, they would be pursued by predators, there'd be bits of carcass around, and there are spotted hyenas around at this time as well. So it's quite a rich predator guild, but at the moment no direct evidence on these bones, at least.
Because this is quite interesting. The environment that we all live in today, the landscape we all live in today, we do not see dead large animals dotted around. We just don't see it because we don't live in that type of environment. But of course, at that time, you'd have life and death pretty much playing out. Well, it would have been everywhere. So
all the time.
And you'd have carrion.
There were vultures here in the UK at the time, but also loads of interesting things like carrion beetles, everything playing their little part in breaking these bodies down.
Fantastic, I like that. Right, that leaves us this last piece here. Now, this is unusual.
Yeah, funny little bit. And actually, when we went over to the conservation tent to have a look at it, initially it was sort of described as a bit of rib, but I took a second look at it, and it's actually a piece of antler.
Oh, that's fantastic. We haven't had antler yet.
So there we go. So first piece of antler, and pretty sure that it's a piece of red deer antler. So it looks kind of scruffy, but you've got a bit of probably one of those prongs or the tines of the antler. And again, it's got that sort of typical texture inside the antler. Now it's a bit beaten up because again it's been broken, it's been battered as it's moved through the course of the river, but you can still see the surface is actually, it's almost got like a warty texture to it. So bumpy surface. And this is what we call pearling, which occurs on red deer antlers today. So if you look at a red deer antler, you'll see that there are some fine grooves on there as well, but they're also quite bumpy.
Right.
In terms of the sort of outer texture of those, just those little protrusions on the surface. So very nice. The red deer here in this particular warm stage got to very big size as well. It's a really rich and productive environment, so lots of big herbivores around.
That is fantastic, and as you said, telling us quite a lot about the landscape, because these are grazing as well as a bit of browsing, but a lot of grazing going on here then, presumably.
Yeah, red deer are particularly flexible, so actually they can modify their rumen, one of the stomach chambers.
Oh, go on, tell us about that.
Well, it's fascinating because actually they are really adaptable. They can modify the rumen to either suit a grazing lifestyle or a browsing lifestyle. So that's
highly adaptable.
It's really, really good, and they're one of the sort of really successful species. Again, occurring in lots of different climatic episodes, lots of different environments, because they can flex between that grazing, browsing, mixed feeder diet.
Okay, well, this is really exciting. So what we have here is horse, mammoth, and also a steppe mammoth we're going for.
We go for the steppe mammoth, yep.
And the red deer. We have, last year we had steppe bison, and I'm trying to think what else. Oh, we've got rhino potentially as well.
I did see a little bit of an atlas vertebra. I think rhino would be a very good candidate once it's cleaned up to check.
Yes,
so,
that's
yes.
We're not going to go and say that's a definite yet, because it is absolutely encased in mud. It does need a bit of work in the conservation area. But you know, this is building this picture, isn't it? Incredible picture of the landscape. Very different to how we imagine it today. I mean, it's like Jumanji game really, with all these things running through it. It's just, you don't expect. We are here in Gloucestershire, on what was the bed of the River Thames many years ago, and you had these huge megafauna really walking through the landscape.
Yeah, it's really exciting, and just possibility to transport yourself back to this time and actually imagine these animals in the landscape. It's wonderful. It's a really terrific opportunity.
Well, Danielle, thank you so much, and I know it doesn't stop for you now. Danielle has been down in the quarry. You enjoyed going down there and seeing what was going on?
It's always really good to actually see the deposits, see people digging, and just brilliant to see everyone at work.
Brilliant. And then I have grabbed her so that she can bring you up to speed on all these wonderful finds that have now been cleaned and stabilised from the conservation tent. But next, Danielle is actually going to be giving us a sort of a presentation, because in the evenings on the dig here, we get people to come and do talks. Now, somebody either on the dig or it's our visitor. So you literally have been thrown in the deep end today. So we're very much looking forward to it. What's your talk going to be about?
I'm actually going to be talking about some ongoing excavations, because I leave here and I go pretty much straight down to my dig in Somerset. And it's an amazing cave site that's produced all kinds of interesting Ice Age bone.
Wow. And is there anywhere that anyone can follow that or read up on it or anything?
Not
yet? Or there might be?
Not so much. I mean, I occasionally post things on Instagram, which I will do, especially if I find anything exciting things.
Okay, well, let's give your Instagram a shout out then.
It's just Danielle Schreve, so easy to find.
Easy to find. So
Yes.
if you want to know more about Danielle's work and the digs that she's on, follow her on Instagram. Thank you so much for joining us. Keep watching. We have so much to show you. The finds are incredible and they just keep coming. And the hashtag is TussForce.